If you're watching this in the quiet dark, with your back to an open door, listen carefully. I need to tell me in the comments right now, are you alone? And if you're new here, tap that subscribe button. You're going to want to see where this ends, because what I'm about to share isn't a story. It's a confession from my first month on a force where the rule book was written in blood. My name is Ben Hayes. 7 months ago, I traded the sirens of Philadelphia for the silence of the Cypress Parish Sheriff's Department in Louisiana. I thought I was escaping my partner's ghost. I didn't know I was walking into a place that collects them. The humidity wrapped around me the second I stepped from my car, a wet, living thing. The station was a squat brick box, its parking lot shimmering with heat haze. In the ditch beside it, a gator sunned itself, one eye cracked open. Welcome to the bayou, I thought. I'd left Philly 90 days after Liam was killed. A simple warrant service. Wrong door. The department psychologist called it acute stress relocation. He suggested somewhere peaceful. Cypress Parish fit the bill. Population 9,000, spread thin across water and wood. Statistically, nothing happened here. I should have asked why they needed an outsider so badly. Inside, the air conditioning wheezed. A woman with a deep, weather tan fanned herself behind the front desk. "You'd be Hayes," she said, not looking up. "Philly boy. Sheriff's waiting. Last door. And he ain't one for chatter." The office smelled of old paper and mildew. Sheriff Reed Claymore was maybe 60, his skin like tan leather, his gaze weighing me. "Deputy Hayes. Sit." I did. He let the silence stretch. "Read your file. 8 years. Good reviews. Then your partner dies and you run to the end of the earth." He leaned back. "That about sum up?" "Looking for a reset, Sheriff." Emmett, he didn't believe me. "You'll get one. This ain't Philly. We move at the speed of the river here." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside, next to the forms, was a single faded page. Cypress Parish Sheriff's Office. Standing orders. 1. All radio traffic for Whisper Marsh Lane after 10 p.m. is diverted to Sheriff Claymore. Do not acknowledge. 2. After sundown, avoid visual contact with individuals head to toe in gray. Return to vehicle. Depart. 3. Deceased reptiles on parish roadways are to be reported directly to Sheriff Claymore prior to any action. Do not interact. 4. On Route 9, deactivate all recording equipment at milepost 22. Reactivate at milepost 23. Do not review the segment. 5. The abandoned Verona Sulphur Works are prohibited to all personnel. Absolute. 6. Should a civilian report observing your assigned patrol unit while you are operating it, terminate your shift. Return to base. I read it twice. Is this a joke? Some kind of initiation? Do I strike you as humorous, Deputy? His expression was stone. Your problem is you think like a city cop. Right, wrong, logical. This is Cypress Parish. The rules here aren't about justice. They're about coming home. He leaned forward. These orders have kept deputies breathing for 20 years. You follow them, you see your family. You don't. He let the sentence hang. What happens if we don't? We've lost 3 deputies since I took this badge. Each and every one disregarded an order. He tapped the paper. Everyone. A cold thread wound down my spine. How? Ways that don't make sense to the coroner. Wounds that don't match the scene. Deaths that shouldn't be possible. He stood. You ride with Deputy Vega for 2 weeks. She knows the parish. She knows the orders. Learn. As I reached the door, he added, "And Hayes? Try to last longer than the last city boy we brought in." That evening, I drove the parish. It was water and shadow, towns clinging to highway like moss to a log. As dusk fell, the swamp exhaled mist, turning cypress knees into crooked fingers. My headlights caught the red gleam of gator eyes in every slough. I saw the sign, Whisper Marsh Lane, 3 miles. Order 1, no calls after 10. What was out there? The city cop in me had to know. I turned onto the mud and gravel track. The canopy closed overhead, swallowing the last light. My beam seemed feeble. I rolled the window down. Just a hum of frogs. The plop of water. Then I saw him, a man, standing in the road center, impossibly still. He wore a gray suit, gray shirt, gray tie, in the heart of a bog. I stopped, hand on my sidearm. Order 2 flashed in my mind. Don't make eye contact. But my training screamed, investigate. I stepped out. Sir, need you to move to the shoulder. Nothing. Not a twitch. I advanced, flashlight up. 20 feet away. Details resolved. The suit was pristine. No mud. His hands hung limp. And his face, the proportions were off. Eyes set too wide. Mouth a flat line. A poor sketch of a person. Identify yourself. His head cocked, bird-like. Then the smile. It split his face, a gash of too many, 2 white teeth. The voice came, but his lips didn't move. It vibrated from the air itself. Deputy Hayes, we've been anticipating you. He knew my name. My blood turned to ice. You'll find this parish has its own rhythm, the voice continued. He glided forward, a smooth, unnatural slide. So much to discover. So many orders to forget. I backpedaled to my truck, fumbling for the door. He laughed, a sound like breaking glass and ringing bells. I reversed wildly. In my mirror, he remained, that terrible smile etched in the gloom. Back at my rental, I stared at the order sheet. Do not make eye contact. I'd done far worse. At 2 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown. I answered. Silence, then that voice. Will continue tomorrow, Deputy. Click. I didn't sleep. Deputy Selena Vega met me at dawn with coffee. You're the transfer. Hayes, you drive. In the cruiser. She produced the order sheet. Claymore gave you this? Yes. Good. They aren't suggestions. They are the law here. Break them. And she looked away, out at the drowning landscape. And what? And you don't finish your shift, or you finish it as something else. She said it with finality that left no room for doubt. What you saw last night, that was a greeting. A warning shot across the bow. They know you now. They always know the new ones, especially the ones who run from something. I didn't admit to breaking the rule, but she knew. The day was routine, a stalled motorist, a noise complaint. Normalcy that felt like a thin veneer over something rotting. Then the call, a large dead gator on Route 9, milepost 7. Order 3. We found it, a 12-foot beast, centered perfectly in a northbound lane, as if placed by a careful hand. Unmarked, not hit by a car. It's milky. Dead eyes stare at the sky. Vega called Claymore immediately, her voice tight. When he arrived, he didn't speak to us at first. He circled the creature, his face grim, a hunter inspecting a trap. Second this week, he muttered to himself. He wouldn't answer my questions. Just get the perimeter set, Hayes. As the Wildlife Commission crew arrived with a flatbed and straps, I helped direct traffic. When they lifted the massive reptile, its pale underbelly was exposed to the morning sun. That's when I saw them. Symbols carved into its skin. They weren't letters or numbers. They were geometric, intricate, and they seemed to pulse. Not physically, but in my perception. If I tried to focus on one, the edges would blur and shift, making my head ache. It was a message written in a language my brain refused to process. Eyes on the road, Hayes. Claymore growled, suddenly beside me. He'd seen me staring. Some things are older than parish lines. Some messages aren't for us to read. Remember Rule 3. Report. Don't interact. Don't study. Later, over bad station coffee, Vega told me the Mark Gator started appearing decades ago. Old-timers say it got worse after they dug up the sulfur works. Like disturbing the ground stirred something up. The marks, nobody knows what they mean. Or if they do, they ain't talking to us. They're just another line in the fence. My first solo night shift arrived a week later. The briefing was just Claymore and me in the empty squad room. Remember, Whisper Marsh calls come to me. Milepost 22, cameras off. The dark here isn't empty. Haze, it's watching. It's always watching. Your job tonight isn't to see what's out there. Your job is to prove you're smart enough not to look. He handed me the keys. Don't make me write another condolence letter. The first hours were deceptively quiet. A few speeders, a check on a lock business. The sheer normalcy was a trick. I knew it was. As I approached milepost 21, on Route 9, my grip on the wheel tightened. The digital clock read 11:14 p.m. At the small green sign for milepost 22, I took a breath and reached for the dash cam, switching it off. The little red light died. The change was instantaneous and profound. The world didn't just get darker, it got thicker. My headlights, which had been cutting a clean path, now seemed to push against a resistant gloom. The trees on either side of the Tulane blacktop appeared closer, their branches leaning in. The swamp sounds, the frogs, the insects, faded into a muffled silence, as if I'd driven into a soundproof room. The single mile between 22 and 23 stretched out, the odometer crawling. And then I saw them, figures in gray, dozens of them, standing at rigid attention in the ditch, amongst the trees, just at the edge of my headlight's reach. Men, women, even children, all clad in that same dull, colorless fabric, motionless, facing the road. As I drove in my peripheral vision, I saw their heads turn in perfect mechanical unison to track my vehicle, and I heard it, a faint, discordant hum seeping to the closed windows, a harmonic that was deeply, fundamentally wrong. It wasn't music. It was the sound of structure breaking down. My heart hammered against my ribs. I fixed my eyes on the yellow line, on the promise of milepost 23. When the small green sign finally materialized in the gloom, I slapped the dash cam back on. The red light glowed. The world snapped back into focus. The oppressive silence popped, replaced by the normal hum of tires on asphalt and the return of the cricket chorus. The figures were gone. I pulled over, my hands trembling so violently I had to clench them into fists. What were they? A hallucination? A collective apparition? Or something else? Something standing guard on a border I wasn't meant to cross? Before I could even process it, my radio crackled. Dispatch, voice tense. Unit 4, be advised. Multiple callers reporting flickering lights at the old Verona sulfur work site. Possible trespassers or unauthorized entry. Requesting a patrol check for signage integrity. Order 5 flashed in my mind. The abandoned Verona sulfur works are prohibited to all personnel. Absolute. The words were a brick wall. But the city cop in me, the one trained to run toward trouble, shouted louder. What if it was kids, like the ones who'd been at the mine? What if someone was hurt, bleeding out in that rusted hellscape? The protocol was a fence. But What if someone was dying on the other side of it? The choice was a trap, and I walked right into it. I keyed the Mike Unit 4 copy, en route to verify. I turned the cruiser around, pointing it toward the one place I was absolutely forbidden to go, lurching through potholes that were more like small ponds. NO trespassing signs, rusted and bullet-riddled, whipped past. The place wasn't just abandoned. It felt rejected. The air grew thick with stale, acrid smell that bypassed the nose and coated the back of the throat. In the distance, the silhouettes of skeletal processing towers cut into the starless sky. I saw the flickering lights, weak, bobbing flashlight beams, deep within a maze of crumbling concrete and twisted pipe. I parked at the edge of the main clearing, my headlights illuminating a warning sign. So faded it was almost blank. I got out, my mag light cutting a shaky path. Sheriff's office. This is restricted property. Show yourselves now. The lights froze, then scattered like startled insects. Young voices, laced with panic. Crap, it's the cops. Go, go, go. They were running deeper into the complex, toward the flooded pits. My training took over. Stop. It's not safe. The ground is unstable. I gave chase, my boots sucking at mud that smelled of rotten eggs and decay. Rusted metal clawed at my uniform. I cornered them at the edge of the largest pit, a vast, stagnant pool of water that gleamed with an unnatural, oily sheen under my flashlight. 3 teenagers, maybe 16, huddled together, panting with fear. But their fear wasn't directed at me. They were staring, transfixed, into the black water. There's people in there, one of them stammered, a boy in a hoodie. It's just old equipment shadows. I said, moving cautiously closer, my light sweeping the surface. No, a girl whispered, her voice cracking. They're looking at us. I directed my beam down. At first, just murk. Then, as the light penetrated, shapes resolved. Bodies. Dozens of them. They were suspended upright in the water, not floating, but standing on the bottom. Their eyes were wide open, unblinking. Their mouths were frozen in silent screams. And they were preserved perfectly, as if they'd been submerged yesterday. But their uniforms, they spanned decades. A deputy's tan shirt from the 80s. A more modern tactical vest. I recognized a face from a faded missing persons flyer in the station break room. Deputy Arlo Miller, vanished in 2020. His eyes, milky and dead, seemed to track the movement of my light. My blood froze solid. This was the graveyard. This was where the rule breakers ended up. Then the water moved, not from a ripple, but from within. It began to bubble gently, then churn as if coming to a boil. The bodies, in unison, began to slowly rotate, their lifeless faces turning upward toward the surface, toward us, toward me. Every instinct, every bit of training evaporated. Primal terror took hold. Run. I roared. Back to the road, now. We fled. I didn't look back. I heard a sound behind us, a deep, wet, sucking groan, as if the pit itself were inhaling. I shoved the kids into my cruiser, my hands slick with sweat and swamp filth, and peeled out, spraying mud and gravel. I didn't stop until we were on solid asphalt under a working streetlight. I drove them home in a silence heavier than any noise, giving a hollow lecture about trespassing that none of us heard. I said nothing about the pit. What would I say? At shift change, Claymore was waiting in his office. The door opened. The fury on his face was a physical force. My office. Now, shut the door. I did. There were trespassers at the sulfur works. Sheriff. Teenagers. I removed them. Their home safe. He didn't speak for a full minute, just stared at me with those flinty eyes. Did you see anything else? The question was a blade. I lied. Just an old flooded pit, rust and bad smells. He let out a short, humorless laugh and pulled a bottle of cheap bourbon and 2 glasses from his desk drawer. He poured 2 fingers into each, slid one across to me. "Drink it." I did. The burn was an anchor. "Deputy Arlo Miller," he began, his voice low. "2020, good man, family man, followed the book. Then one night, a call about kids partying at the works. Against orders, he responded. We found his cruiser at the gate the next morning. Engine running, door open, radio dead, no Miller." He took a long swallow. "I know where he is. I know where Sarah Chun from 16 is. I know where at least 6 others are. That place, it doesn't kill them, Hayes. Not the way we understand. It keeps them. It's hungry, and it's been hungry longer than this has been a parish. We don't stop it. We can't. We manage it. We keep the fence in good repair. Those orders, they're the fence. And you arrogant city bastard, you just took a sledgehammer to it. The weight of it crashed down on me. It wasn't superstition. It was ecology. We were policing the border of a predator's territory. What do they want? What all old, hungry things want," he said, finishing his drink. "More. Now get out. And from now on, you follow those orders like your soul depends on it. Because it does." For the next week, I was a model deputy. I followed the protocols with religious fervor. I jumped at shadows in gray. I reported a dead possum, just to be sure. I was trying to rebuild the fence I'd broken. But on the 15th day, the call that came in wasn't about a rule. It was a missing child, an 8-year-old girl named Lily, last seen in her backyard chasing pretty music into the woods. Her mother's voice on the 911 tape was the sound of a world ending. Protocols be damned. This was a kid. Vega and I responded, lights and sirens. The mother, crumpled on her porch, could barely speak. The song, it was beautiful, but it hurt my ears, and she just ran toward it. She wouldn't stop. I knew what that song was. I'd heard its echo on Route 9. This was a different kind of trap, and I had to walk into it. The woods behind Lily's house swallowed daylight. Vega coordinated the growing search team at the road, but I went in alone. I knew speed was the only weapon that might work. The deeper I pushed, the more the normal swamp sounds died away, replaced by that same haunting, discordant melody. It was clearer now, a twisted lullaby that promised comfort and delivered a deep, psychic chill. It pulled at me, a physical tug in my chest. I fought it, focusing on the beam of my flashlight. I found her in a clearing where no clearing should have been. A massive, ancient live oak stood in the center, its trunk grotesquely twisted. Lily stood before it, swaying gently, her back to me. The song seemed to drip from the tree's branches like sap. "Lily? Sweetheart, it's Deputy Hayes. I'm here to take you home." No response. Her eyes were open, glazed. She took a shuffling step toward the gnarled trunk. "No." I lunged, grabbing her around the waist and pulling her back. The moment my hands touched her, the music ceased. The sudden silence was violence, a pressure that made my ears pop. Lily went limp in my arms, then began to cry, a ragged, human sound that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. Then they appeared, not from the trees, but from the spaces between them. Gray-clad figures, materializing in a perfect, silent ring around the clearing, cutting off every exit. 30 of them. 40. And at their center, the man in the gray suit. His terrible, wide smile was back. Deputy Hayes. The voice buzzed from the air. "Returning what you've stolen?" I held Lily tight, her face buried in my shoulder. "She's not stolen. She's going home to her mother." She answered the call. She crossed the threshold. The old packed her clear. Her life is forfeit to the parish. He glided a step closer. You, however, are a repeated offender. The price for your transgressions is now due. My service weapon was in my hand, but it felt like a child's toy. Useless. Then Claymore's words echoed. They respect badge. Some deep-down memory. It was a desperate, stupid hope. I lowered my weapon, but stood straight, my voice ringing with authority I didn't feel. Deputy Benjamin Hayes, Badge 227, Cypress Parish Sheriff's Office. This is an active child rescue operation under my authority. You are interfering with an officer in the lawful execution of his duty. By the standing orders of this parish, you are commanded to stand down. The effect was electric. The entire circle of gray figures flinched as one. The synchronized menace broke. They looked at each other. Confusion on those poorly made faces. Orders, murmured a woman in a faded gray dress. We had orders once. The rules, a man in an old-fashioned patrol jacket whispered, his voice rusty with disuse. The rules kept the gate closed. The man in gray hissed, a sound like steam escaping. Silence! The pack are older than his 10-star. The swamp claims what it calls. I took a step forward, toward the weakest part of the ring. She is going home. I said each word as a hammer strike. The two figures in front of me shuffled backward, their heads bowed slightly. A path opened. I walked through, Lily in my arms, expecting a blow that never came. Behind me, I heard a shriek of pure, crystalline rage that shook the leaves from the trees and sent birds screaming into the sky. I emerged from the tree lean to a flood of relief and flashing lights. The reunion was chaos and tears. Claymore pulled me aside, away from the celebration. His face was unreadable. You used the rules as a weapon. That was smart, and unbelievably stupid. You didn't just break a rule tonight. Hayes, you challenged the landlord. Now you're on the eviction list. The harassment began immediately. My patrol cruiser developed a persistent electrical gremlin. The radio would cut to a whisper that twisted lullaby. The GPS would plot routes leading into dead-end sloughs. I catch glimpses of my own face, pale and grinning in a gray uniform, watching from the tree line at a fender bender, or reflected in a store window as I drove past. The parish was reminding me I was marked. Then the trap was fully sprung. Dispatch, her voice tight with confusion, reported multiple 911 calls. My patrol unit, number 4, was driving erratically, swerving across lanes on Route 9. But I was 10 miles south, parked writing a report. Order 6 flashed in my mind. Should a civilian report observing your assigned patrol unit while you are operating it, terminate your shift. Return to base. I terminated my shift. I raced back to the station, a cold dread in my gut. En route, I passed my own cruiser. It was parked on the shoulder, lights off. As I drove by, the Ben Hayes behind the wheel turned and looked at me. He wore the gray. He gave me that wide, impossible smile. At the station, a grim-faced state police detective was waiting with Sheriff Claymore. He played damning dashcam footage on a laptop. The timestamp was from tonight. It showed me, clear as day, driving on Route 9. At 10:47 p.m., I reached over and turned off the camera. The footage cut, then came back on at 10:51 p.m. at a different location. The exact site of fatal hit and run, where an elderly man had been killed. The car had fled. The evidence was perfect, digital, and utterly fabricated. I was being framed for murder. Deputy Hayes, you need to come with me, the detective said, reaching for his cuffs. As his hand moved, every light in the sheriff's office blew out with a pop, plunging us into darkness. The emergency red batons flickered on, casting hellish shadows. And they were there, Dozens of gray figures, filling the doorway, the hallway, the windows. The man in gray stepped directly through the wall. "The debt is now payable, Deputy Hayes," the voice intoned. "A life for a life. Join our collection. Become one with the parish. In exchange, this evidence will vanish. Your name will be cleared. You simply will not be here to enjoy it." The choice was aside: a life in prison for a crime I didn't commit, or oblivion wearing a gray suit. The detective stood frozen, his professional certainty shattered. I was cornered, but I saw the spark of memory in the other gray figure's eyes. I saw their longing. The fence kept them in, too. "I have a counteroffer," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "You don't want me. You want the fence gone. You want the standing orders abolished." I looked at Claymore, saw the understanding and the warning in his eyes. I ignored it. "Make me sheriff. And the moment I am, I will tear up the rules. I will dismantle the fence. You'll have your free passage." The room froze. "He lies," the man in gray screeched, his form flickering with rage. But the woman in the faded dress spoke. "Could we go home?" she asked, her voice aching with a hope 2 decades dead. One by one, gray hands began to rise. A vote. The majority was clear. The deal was struck. The man in gray vanished with a final, venomous promise. "Understanding this parish will change you, Hayes. It consumes what it learns." The evidence unraveled. Digital experts found impossible anomalies. The case dissolved. Sheriff Claymore, his health failing, and his wife demanding they retire to Florida, fast-tracked my promotion. Within 2 months, the star was pinned to my chest. I was now Sheriff Ben Hayes, and I had a promise to keep. The weight of the sheriff's star was different. It wasn't just a badge. It was a fulcrum of a bargain. The faded page of standing orders sat on my desk, not in a drawer. My promise hung in the air of my new office, thick as the swamp humidity. Deputy Vega, now my chief deputy, leaned in the doorway. "So, you gonna do it? Tear up the peace treaty?" "I made a deal, Selena." "You made a choice to save your skin," she corrected, not unkindly. "A choice that might get the rest of us killed. That fence was there for a reason. You opened the gate, you let the wolf in. Or," I said, staring at the list, "you changed the nature of the wolf. They weren't born that way. The parish changed them. What if we could change the terms?" That night, I performed the ritual Claymore had grudgingly taught me before he left. A ring of salt around the desk, 3 drops of my own blood on the original orders, words spoken in a dialect he claimed was older than the parish. I felt foolish. Then the air in the office dropped 20 degrees. They were there, not dozens, but the core of them, perhaps 20 figures, with the woman in the faded dress at their front. The man in gray was conspicuously absent. "Your term, Sheriff?" the woman asked. Her voice was clearer now, less an echo. "The standing orders end tonight," I said, my voice echoing in the cold room. "The fence comes down." I saw the hope flare in their hollow eyes. "But—" the word hung. "My deputies still patrol. The people of this parish still need protecting. From ordinary evil, and from the older kinds. Your new order is to protect them. You stand guard. You become the whisper that says, 'Turn back.' You become the shadow that blocks the wrong path. You be the warning you never got." Silence. Then the woman, Deputy Miller, as she once was, spoke. "You ask us to remember our oath, to serve and protect. I'm giving you a chance to fulfill it," I said. "The silence of this parish doesn't have to be your enemy. It can be an ally if you know who's standing in it with you." One by one, they nodded. Even the most misshapen among them dipped their head in solemn agreement. It was a new covenant, I picked up the single sheet of paper, the type rules that had governed terror and survival for a generation. I didn't crumple it. I tore it neatly, slowly in half. The rip was shockingly loud in the silent room. As the two pieces separated, a vibration passed through the floor, a deep subsonic rumble like a giant chain falling away. The gray figures flickered, their forms softening at the edges, the uncanny wrongness of their features smoothing slightly. They looked more like sad ghosts than predatory mimics. After all this time, Arlo Miller whispered, and on her lips was a real human smile, touched with an infinite sorrow. Thank you, Sheriff. They didn't vanish. They faded, like morning mist burned away by the first hint of sun, leaving behind only the scent of ozone and damp earth. In the 6 months since, the parish has changed. The marked gators have stopped appearing. The haunting melody hasn't been heard. But deputies report oddities. A call to a domestic dispute where an angry husband suddenly calmed, claiming a cold lady in gray told him to sit down and think of his children. A rookie about to enter a condemned house for a wellness check hears a clear whisper in his ear. Back door. Ambush. He listens, calls for backup, and they arrest 2 armed fugitives inside. On Route 9, deputies now drive past milepost 22 with cameras on, reporting nothing stranger than possums. But some say they feel a watchful presence, a guardian shadow in the trees that leaves them uneasy but safe. The old, hungry balance is broken. A new, fragile, and utterly strange one is in its place. I patrol without a list of rules now. My only order is to protect this parish. All of it. Last week, driving that stretch of Route 9 at dusk, I saw a figure in gray standing just inside the tree line. It was Deputy Miller. She wasn't staring blankly at the road. She was watching it, scanning, as I passed. She lifted a hand, not in menace, but in a slow, deliberate wave of acknowledgement, a partner checking in. I waved back. This is my parish now. It's living and it's lost. The swamp is quieter, but it's not gone. It's patient. And I'm not running anymore. For the first time since I lost Liam, I am exactly where I am supposed to be, even if that means my deputies are both the quick and the dead, and my duty is to treat with things that were stolen skin and remember forgotten odes. Welcome to Cypress Parish. The rules are different here, but if you learn them, if you listen to silence and understand that not all allies breathe, you might just make a home. If that journey from blind terror to uneasy understanding got under your skin, if you felt that chill when the man in gray spoke, or that surge of hope when the lost deputies remembered their duty, then you understand the power of a story that lives in the borderlands between our world and something else. That's what we do here on this channel. We don't just tell scary stories. We map the uncharted territories of the weird, the eerie, and the unexplained. We look into the dark corners of history, folklore, and first-hand accounts to bring you narratives that feel true, that linger in your mind long after the video ends. Cypress Parish is a fiction, but the fear it's built on, the fear of ancient rules, of landscapes of memory, of becoming what you hunt, that is a very real human thread running through countless legends and experiences. I need your help to keep exploring these shadows. Here's how you can be a part of it. First, hit the like button on this video. Right now, that single click is the most powerful signal to YouTube's algorithm that this kind of deep narrative horror matters to you. It tells the platform, give me and others more of this. It directly fuels this channel's growth and allows me to spend more time crafting these worlds for you. Second, and this is crucial, subscribe to Winds of Thought. Tap that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Don't miss what's coming next. The story of Cypress Parish might be complete, but our exploration is just beginning. The next series could dive into the haunted radio transmissions of a lonely Arctic outpost, the forbidden archives of a monastery that worships a silent god, or the true account of a park ranger who logged things he was never meant to see. Subscribing is your ticket to the front row for all of it. Finally, talk to me. Your engagement is the lifeblood of this community. Tell me in the comments, what part of Cypress Parish would be hardest for you to endure? Would it be the unnatural silence of the grave figures, the grotesque mystery of the marked gators, or the psychological torture of seeing your own double wearing that terrible smile? Share your thoughts. Your comments don't just guide future content. They create a community of fellow travelers in the strange. And if you're hungry for more right now, check out the playlist on screen or the video I've linked in the description. There's always another mystery waiting. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for daring to step into the quiet dark with me. This is Sheriff Ben Hayes, signing off from Cypress Parish. Remember, the silence can be an ally. I'll see you in the next story. Stay curious, stay brave, and as always, keep thinking. This is Winds of Thought.